on. Hmm. Not as satisfying. uh,
Wait, what?
did you hear the coffee?
No.
Yeah, it wasn't as satisfying over this mic. Uh, well, guys, welcome to Stoner's Point Podcast remote episode today. Um,
Hello?
hey, yeah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
What
just
happened?
saying hello.
Oh, okay.
I can't say hello. Fuck you too, man.
well,
I'll take my toys and cry.
I was concerned that there were audio issues. You know, that thing that never happened to us.
Oh, there's going to be audio issues on my side. Remember, I'm getting through a pipe and string going through 3 countries and 5 FPNs,
mhm. Mhm. So
all powered by a squirrel.
yeah, yeah. And that's if somebody don't like, blow up a fucking tower or something out there.
Yeah. We got a bunch of crazy motherfuckers wanting to shoot at stuff. So
right?
never know.
It's always possible. And yeah, so we took a week off. It was much needed. And then we didn't record yesterday because, well, acid. Um, and so yeah, so we're doing this episode today. We were going to do an episode about John McAfee, but we kind of just spaced out that whole week. And then that weekend came that we were going to do it, and then the power went out, and like it was just kind of a nightmare. So we just took the week off. Um,
But
and
I will put in there, we have to add him to the Epstein list of those that did not kill themselves.
oh, what is he dead now?
Yeah.
John McAfee's dead?
Yeah.
What?
Found dead, hung in a Spanish prison awaiting extradition.
When was
June
this?
20 June 23rd of last year. Yeah, last year now. No, year before last, 21, June 23rd, 21.
Holy shit! This changes everything. uh,
Yeah, he always said if he was ever found dead in prison, he didn't do it. And well, he was found dead in prison.
yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, he's going to be an interesting topic. Like he was an interesting topic before he didn't kill himself.
Right?
You know, and honestly, not as bad a person as Epstein. Like there may have been a murder, but you
I
know,
mean, nobody's perfect.
yeah, murder happens, and a little spoiler: the murder that supposedly happened because the guy who got murdered poisoned McAfee's dogs.
Yeah. So nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. And that's
I ain't saying he murdered. I ain't saying McCaffrey murdered him, but the guy deserved to be murdered.
exactly. It's not to me. It isn't like he went out and killed an upstanding citizen. He killed a dog murder because the dogs are always on his property. Like, come on. But
But
anyway,
we'll have to catch up with him one day.
today's episode is not about that. Today's episode is about Roswell.
Something a little less strange.
Yeah, actually. Uh, um, so Roswell. This was our voted topic because Dustin voted and Aaron did not because he doesn't believe in democracy.
Yep. Fuck your voice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, might as well. He doesn't want to share it. You know. Um, so yeah, we're gonna. The voted topic was Roswell and the Area 51 fiasco. So what do you know, Mike?
It was a shitty TV series.
Oh
It's
God,
made
I
the
forgot
public.
about that.
Yeah, it was fucking horrible. It's the butt of a joke in many of other television shows and movies. And probably the butt of a joke in surrounding towns. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not from that particular part of the neighborhood. Um,
It's probably
but
like a
yeah,
town ordinance that it can't be like sold in any stores in town inside city limits.
yeah, it's one of those hole in the wall dirt net towns that you'd never know about if it wasn't for a little incident that happened back in what 1947.
Yeah, yeah. Let's look up some stats on Roswell in 1947. Roswell stats 1947.
Everybody knows the name Roswell now.
Well, that wasn't helpful at all. But yeah, it was a little bitty town, a little bitty nothing, and yeah, everybody knows the name now. Um, so basically, have you ever seen a UFO, Mike?
Well, it depends on the fitting definition of a UFO, but yes, if we go by the actual literal definition of a UFO, yeah, I think everybody has.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, have you ever seen something like a flying saucer or something that flies in ways that don't match what you know to be our capabilities?
That particular type thing that I would say would be advanced technologies, no.
I have. I actually have seen something that I would say, if it exists as technology we have on this planet, and nobody's talking about it. Me and Aaron, our Patreon, was at the beach, um, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, we went down there to see Billy, and we were hanging out at the beach, and we're out on the porch, and the porch was like, their little beach Airbnb was like kind of right on the water, so we're out there on the porch hanging out, chilling, and we're not like exceptionally fucked up. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't fucked up beyond any kind of like range of my normal level, and I look out and I see like just off the corner of my eye, I see this like light. So I turn my head and there's this green light like out above the water, you know. And it's kind of hard to gauge distance, when you're at the ocean. You know what I mean? Things
Yeah.
that are really close look really close could be like 4 or 5 miles away. So I don't know how far away this thing was, but it was clearly in my vision and it was fucking like greenish. It was the sun was just starting to come up, so I think the greenish hue had to do with reflection a little bit, but it was bright and it moved like a Nike swoosh, man. Like a quick as fuck. It moved down a little bit and then zigged the opposite fucking direction and disappeared. And I just nobody else saw it, so I did. I told Aaron about it later, and he was like, "Man, I wish I'd have seen it," but nobody else saw it, so I just went back to my beer. But to this day, I know what I saw. Well, I know what it wasn't. It wasn't anything I've ever seen proof of existing in Earth technology, and it moved
Um,
exactly like they described the UFOs moving.
I hear you, man. That's some weird shit, and I never doubt anybody that does it because I've seen weird shit, just not like that. But closest thing I had was I thought I'd saw a big flying saucer or something like that of nature, and wee morning hours of going to school one day until I saw the same thing a couple of days later when it was actually daytime instead of like 5 o'clock in the morning, and it turned out to be three B-2 bombers that we didn't know about at the time that were
Oh,
flying in tight formation.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, well, the Roswell incident took place before there was any of this stuff. So it started. There was a flying saucer craze already going on, apparently at the time, right? Like they all over the place. Now, people in Roswell, like the news there, it took a little while. And the guy where this thing happened, the property, he got like monthly newspapers, I think. So like he wasn't even really hip to what was going on. He's just like some weird sheep farmer out in the middle of fucking nowhere. And
Well, yeah, I wouldn't think in 47 that very much news actually reached Roswell.
yeah, yeah. It was actually the crash actually can happen in a little town called Corona, New Mexico. Um, at the population in 2010 was 172 people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, Basically, what happened if the guy's like it's like the middle of the night or like late at night. Let's see. Um, da,
The
da,
fuck
da.
was his name?
W. Mac Brazel. Right. He had left home on Saturday night, July 5th, 1947. He made a trip from his ranch to town, Corona. The ranch had no phone and no radio. Left, and he was unaware of the flying saucer craze of the prior 10 days. Um, so it wasn't until Saturday night that he had collected the debris he'd found 3 weeks earlier with the flying discs in the news. The debris was basically like tinfoil rubber and thin wooden beams that had been scattered across a square mile of his ranch. He had previously gathered it and put it under a brush to dispose of it, kind of like a farmer does. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Well, let me get it out of my grazing field. You know.
Yep.
Then he heard the stories of these silvery flying discs when he went into town, so he went back and he gathered up his shit.
That
Um,
might be what I have. Wait a minute.
Went back and dug out the debris and took it to the sheriff's office. The sheriff called Roswell's Army Airfield, and they took over it. And um, yeah, the farmer took the Major Jesse Marcel, which was the guy that kind of took over the case, back to the debris site, and they gathered up more pieces of rubber and tinfoil. And then Marcel took the material home that night. Uh, that night, there's like a famous picture of this guy, and he's like on a floor, and he's got all this like tinfoil shit out in front of him. And it was because he knew that the next day this shit was going to be gone forever. So like he like had his kids come out playing with it. They took pictures. He said that like when you balled it up, it would like unball itself. Like it wouldn't, he couldn't make it like
Yeah,
change.
stay crumpled. Yeah.
Yeah, it just it would constantly it had enough flex in it to bring itself back to its regular state. And he thought it was like some really cool shit, but he was just a major in the army. Well, actually the Army Air Corps, I think it was at this time. Um, so he took the material to his commander the following like Tuesday morning. Um, a Colonel William Blanchard. He reported it to General Ramey at Fort Worth, and he ordered the material flown to his base immediately. So they got aboard a B-29 and made a flight out there. On July 8th, the morning that he left, a public information officer issued a press release stating that personnel from the field's 509th Operation Group had recovered a flying disc which had landed on a ranch near Roswell. The article said, quote, "The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers and sheriff's offices of Chavis County. The flying object landed on a ranch near Roswell sometime last week. Not having phone facilities, the rancher stored the disc until such time as he was able to contact the sheriff, who in turn notified Major Jesse A. Marcel of the 509th Bomb Group Intelligence Office. Action was immediately taken and the disc was picked up at the rancher's home. It was inspected at Roswell Army Airfield and subsequently loaned by Major Marcel to higher headquarters. Um, so he got in a lot of shit. He he basically said years later, decades later, that he said his superior had told him, I said, Walter, don't run this story. If you do, you're going to be in trouble. They'll ship you out to Siberia. As soon as the material was brought to General Ramey's desk, both Ramey and his chief identified the materials as pieces of a weather balloon kite. That's it. It's not some mysterious metal that does weird shit. And if it is, well, you can't see it anymore because it's top secret. The balloons were attached to a six-pointed reflective device that looked like a silver star. After launch, the balloon expands with increasing altitude before bursting around 60,000 feet, with pieces then dispersing their fall to the ground. Um, yeah.
Yeah. That's why
So,
it took them 3 days to identify it and put out the alter story that it wasn't a flying disc; it was a weather balloon.
yeah, yeah. And here's a picture of Marcel with the debris. It does look like straight up tinfoil, you know,
Mm,
but
Mylar.
yeah, Marklar. And the wood. So on there was like a thing I read years and years ago. I can't remember what it was, but it was like some sort of like article that was talking about the whole thing. And like it didn't just like crash into the field, right? It went through the roof of like this old barn or like storage building or some shit or silo that he had on the property. It was no longer in use or whatnot. So he didn't really. That's where like the wood came from. Is it was pieces of the old barn that it crashed through on its way to the ground. And when it made impact with the barn, it scattered whatever the hell hit it. And that's
I don't know how many different models of weather balloons they got, but the instruments on the bottom of them things aren't that big, and they're not traveling sideways when they come down.
nor are they made of wood.
Well, even if the wood was from the barn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're not traveling. You've seen fucking weather balloons and fucking hot air balloons. They're
Yeah.
not traveling fast enough to tear a hole through a barn.
Well, through the roof coming down from 5,000 feet. Yeah,
If it's
yeah.
in free fall, yeah, I can see
Yeah,
that. If it's
terminal
in like free
velocity.
fall, yeah.
But the
Uh,
balloons would slow it down to the point where it couldn't if it's still attached to the balloon. Even if it's burst, I mean, it's going to create enough drag where it should hit, maybe knock a little, dent in it, but it shouldn't even go through a roof at that point unless it's an old one.
yeah. So the Roswell incident kind of faded for a while. There was other shit going on. Uh, I mean, it did spark off this huge like craze though. I mean, there was already like a whole bunch of like flying saucers being reported everywhere, but this like brought on the whole genre of like science fiction, really. You know.
It got the science fiction genre for it got started a little bit earlier.
Oh yeah, you had like War of the Worlds and whatnot, but I'm talking about like this is when you start getting like the day the Earth stood still, and shit like that.
Well, there
It's
was enough of them where people were already interested in it, and there was an incident just a little bit before Roswell of some pilot out west that was flying by in his little single engine and had reported seeing something strange in the area.
oh yeah,
But
and there's been reports of flying saucers like there's wood cuttings from like the 15th century in Germany where they were showing they're depicting like this battle between these cigar shaped uh like flying craft and some like these triangle shaped things. I
that's our
mean,
government going back in time to create fake news
oh, it's the
to
deep state.
discredit the conspiracy theory of
Goddamn,
man-made UFOs.
goddamn liberal media. That's kind of like saying that God put dinosaur bones out there to test our faith. Oh man. Uh,
The men in black figured if we put the story back far enough in the past, nobody would ever believe it was something true today. Therefore, it was fiction for a long time ago. It never happened. We don't have aliens in our basement.
yeah, yeah. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
and so they the story becomes this whole thing of it trickles down into a cover up, right? First off, there's the initial report that it was a flying saucer that the military puts out. That they then retract and say, no, 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 that's silly. We would never say that.
Three
We
days later, after having time to gather the proper debris of an actual crashed weather balloon, stage the photos, get the photos developed, call the press, get them out there to take the photos, get the damn papers print, then put out the statement that it was a weather balloon.
yeah.
1947 people, that was fast.
It really was. You got to think they didn't have the interwebs, you know. Um, but after this crash, um, which didn't happen, it was a weather balloon. It was only a weather balloon. Um, by the way, did you know that I don't know if we've talked about this before, but the Japanese used like these little balloon bombs to try and like wipe out the west coast of the U.S. And some of them made it quite far, but didn't really do a lot of damage. I think there was like a forest fire started, but
I
like
mean,
yeah, they're. I mean, balloons were a thing. They made like a whole shit ton of paper balloons in Japan, and like waited for the wind to be just right, and they blew good ways. Just a lot of them were duds. Um,
well, it's almost as ingenious as our bat bombs.
or Fidel's exploding cigar. Oh man. Then there was
It was
another
a
we
hell of a lot better than the dog bombs.
and the cat ones, like training cats. Come the fuck on.
No, it's doable,
But
but I
there's
mean,
easier ways. There, it's
if you're going to train an animal to go after a target, don't make that target your target. Don't train them on your target.
So yeah, and there's stories of people who were involved, like, because there's, when the army went out there, it wasn't just them, like the whole town, went out there, and there were a lot of people there, both in the Air Force, townspeople, who said that they were intimidated afterwards by like government officials to not talk about what they seen, and ask them, did you really see that, or could it have been this? Um, there was claims that people saw bodies in the wreckage. Um,
Yeah. I've started to go into listening to all the stories again, and I was just, nope, I'm not doing that. But there are stories where all these witnesses are coming forward and starting to say what they have seen. And I'm telling you, man, that stuff gets stranger every fucking year.
yeah, yeah. It's like I believe the Roswell crash was an alien vehicle that was shot down. You know, but I don't believe in like I'm going to say 99% of the alien abduction stories you hear. I think 99% of them are bullshit. You know what I mean? There may have been one that has happened, but I don't know. That's why I say
Well,
99%.
let's say I've thought about that, but take that a little farther. Say it was an alien UFO from another world that came to this planet, and we shot it down. That's where we're at.
I mean, it's either that or something from this planet. Like
Well, I'm not trying to poke a hole or nothing like that. I just want to let's follow this string out a little bit.
okay.
So that's where we're at in this version of the story is a craft from another place traveled the expanse, got here, and we shot it down by whatever you uh, malice or intent behind it. It got shot down, whether we accidental or not.
Right.
Um, so now we've got shot down aliens on our planet. Two things should have happened at that point. Two probable out. Well, three. Either one, these folks are so far off course, and we blew up the radio, and we got no. They could not contact home. For some reason, their home has no idea what happened to them. They just disappeared. They are the in the space versions of the Bermuda Triangle, and now there's a do not visit this area sign somewhere out there in the galaxy, and that's why we ain't shot down no more. Um, Two, the aliens know it, and they decide, you know what, they can kill us. We're not getting into that, and put a big again do not visit sign out there in the universe somewhere.
Yeah. Hostile species.
Yeah, or three, well, it really took that damn long, and these motherfuckers are still coming out here to get us. It's just going to be a
Could
while before they
be,
get us.
yeah. Just like in Stargate, right? When the Stargates close, they just come the old-fashioned way. Um, I
But
kind of, I
it's
kind.
been a while.
It's been a while. I kind of feel like if it's say they're from another planet, right, and they're not from some like interdimensional thing of our own world or whatever. Um, say they're from another galaxy or whatever, and they get here and they've been here, coming here, visiting and observing and experimenting for millennia, and they have experienced little to no resistance, and then all of a sudden out of the blue they get shot down, right? And not only that, not only are there incidences at this time in Roswell, there's Antarctica. You can actually there's pictures you can look at from like it's not Google Maps, it's some other thing that like they use for like the science with Antarctica. It's like more detailed. You can see like crashed ships in Antarctica. Um, so apparently things were going good, and maybe they only lost a few ships here and there to like bad conditions or like
Well,
uh,
depending on who you ask, looking at pictures and maps of other worldly places, you can see all kinds of shit on Mars,
doors.
or faces, or ducks,
Bro,
or
do you know there's a
rabbits.
there, I just learned this. I was like, yeah, 2 days. I was 2 days ago years old when I learned that there's a face on Antarctica.
Yep, looks a lot like the one on Mars.
Yeah, kind of looks like Daedra from Skyrim. Yeah,
But
there's a fucking face on Mars.
then people see fucking Jesus in toast and the Virgin Mary in
Yeah,
their pea soup, and
but Mike, you got to squint to see that shit.
no, no, you really don't. I mean,
You're thinking it's that thing where the brain sees things that aren't there. But I'm thinking I see eyes, I see a nose, I see a mouth, and it's like symmetrical.
oh, yeah, I'm saying that your brain picks out recognizable patterns and puts the particles together in
True,
something that your brain
human
can put
beings do
together.
see faces where there are none. I'm saying I don't think this is the case here. Like
Well, I'm not debating that. I'm just saying that things get seen everywhere.
well, all right. So all our
Until
fans
I
out there,
interpret it with my own, I gotta,
all
I
three
gotta
of
put
our
that out
fans
there.
out there, our stoners point of stands. Uh, Weigh in on this. Send some comments, some emails. What do you think about this face on Antarctica? Is it our brain tricking us into seeing things that aren't there because of it's how our brains really do work, or is this a face? And if it is a face, what does that tell? I mean, it kind of it would prove my theories about Antarctica in our earlier episode. On,
Yeah, most definitely would do that if we actually found something there.
yeah, yeah.
That would definitely be proof. And it would probably, if that face is actually intended to be a carved face, then that would probably indicate that we aren't originated from here.
Yeah, but I mean, far as like the you go to the crash, back to the Roswell crash. If all these years the only problems they have found have been like little like incidences, right, little accidents, and then we shoot one the fuck down, it's like it's like that tribe of people in the Amazon or whatever, where that guy went to try and spread the word of Jesus and got filled with arrows. People haven't been going back there to spread the word of Jesus. Like I think, and that's kind of I think what happens. Like, oh shit, they can kill us. They've
Well,
become
I
hostile
had
to us.
posited a theory at one time that the human race had came here from somewhere else in a spacecraft, but something happened to that spacecraft, and they had to come down in escape pods, and all of the escape pods somehow didn't make it, but one, and only two people came out of it, and well, there you go. Um, would be why there's a missing link. Um, we're looking in the wrong place. Maybe, just possibly, that the 47 craft, if indeed was a craft, was, just, putting something together, pulling it out of my taint here. Um, an escape pod from an opposing Federation's craft that has been drifting out there for, who knows how damn long. And their systems have finally failed, and they had to send an escape pod of their own just to see if they could get some, people down here, and we shot it down because we didn't want that war to start over again.
No, no. And then you go into like the Majestic 12 and all that shit, and Valiant Thor, and there's like possibilities that after this they took a more diplomatic relation stance with us. And because if you look after Roswell is when we see that huge spike in technology, like in the rapid advancement of technology. In which like
Well,
there's alternate explanations, and correlation does not necessarily equal causation, but sometimes it does.
true, but we had just come out of a period of war, which also drives great innovation in technology. And when you get all that innovation of stuff that you were planning to do to kill people, and all of a sudden you don't get to kill people anymore, you got to do something with it. So you find other applications.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, fair. uh,
We now cook our food with the remnants and of the first bits of radar experimentation.
yeah, and like I said, there are alternate theories as to what caused it, but like I said, we did start doing shit we had never even thought of before. That's when we get microchip technology out of fucking nowhere. We get like silica and shit like that getting involved in it. You know, um, like a lot of shit comes out of nowhere that we didn't have, and like I said, it could have been just innovation driven by the time. It could have also been reverse engineered shit, and from spacecraft and maybe like collusion with agents from space creatures or you know these grays or what have you. Um, which I guess brings us to the questions of Area 51, right? Because that's where all this is going down, if it's happening at all. Yesterday we were watching that documentary about Bob Lazar. What do you think of Bob Lazar, Mike? Like as a person, do you find him? Do you find his story credible?
Well, I don't trust any human, but as far as I can tell from his behavior while he was doing the show, yeah, I can't really fault him. I mean,
Right, right. He could be lying, but there's no bells really going off other than the story he's telling. You know, there's no like whistles going off that you're being conned, right? He's even kind of reluctant to really talk about a lot of it, except he's kind of this he just seems like the type of guy who he feels like it's fucked up that this knowledge isn't really being shared around. So Bob Lazar, if you haven't checked, there's documentaries about the guy. Um, he was basically like a really this really smart ass motherfucker who was building rocket bicycles, and
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with him. I mean, the guy is fucking brilliant. He's not only into science, but he's into just doing scientific and mechanical shit by hand. He gets his fucking hands dirty with his
yeah, yeah,
toys.
he's basically an engineer. Um,
Yeah,
and he fires off after going to MIT or no, it wasn't MIT. Well, it was, but there was another one too. I can't remember. Anyway, some college shit, right? Um, he's going to college, and after getting out of college, he basically shotguns applications out to all these labs, right? And he gets a call back from basically Area 51. It's from S4, which is like a site near Area 51, but not necessarily on Area 51. And basically,
Yeah,
what they do
he knows how
there,
to trick your shit.
what they do there is they kind of swear him to secrecy, and then they basically tell him, "Look, we're reverse engineering and trying to understand the physics behind these alien spacecraft. We have several of them." Um, and basically, he goes into a lot of detail about how these alien spacecraft works. He describes things, for instance, like identification technology that measures the length of the bones in your hand, which apparently are unique to each person. Which, when he was talking about in the 80s, people were like, no, that's nonsense. But now it's a real thing, and it's pretty much exactly what he described. Um, he predicted the existence of this thing called Element 115, and scientists were all like, "No, that's fucking nonsense." And now they're like, "Okay, yeah, he was actually right." Uh, so a lot of things that he talked about come out. Well, he was right about this. He was right about this, and because scientists don't know what it is, they have no understanding of it because it doesn't really exist yet. He shouldn't know. And basically, what he describes is like these ships work off of building like a gravity well, in the direction that they want to go, so that the ship is always kind of falling into this gravity well, and that's how it propels itself along. And basically, they don't understand the physics behind it. Because Mike said something yesterday, like, "Well, how do you keep from tearing a fucking hole in space and time?" And it's like, well, maybe that's why they want to understand the physics. They know how it works, but it's really important to know why. you know?
And how you control it. Yeah,
Yeah,
knowing the theory behind it is not quite enough. And like I said, I get the theory that he talks about, and this guy he's got the mind, the and the will, the ability to have a very comfortable life without having to get any kind of attention from
yeah,
anybody
yeah. He
for
hasn't gotten
saying
any money
stupid
for
shit.
this, and he comes
He
out in the
says
'80s.
some weird shit, but you cannot say anything that he says is stupid because this man is fucking brilliant. He's very intelligent. Everything that he says and has done is sound if you put it down on paper and do math to it. Um, and why would he go out and say some really stupid shit like this to try to get some
Yeah,
media
he even
attention when
said, "Look, if I
he could
wanted to
have
lie, I
a
could tell him."
career and
Yeah, he's like, "I could tell a more interesting, better lie." He's like, "But."
yeah, I mean, he's got enough background knowledge to be able to just spit some bullshit out there that you couldn't prove, um, one way or the damned other if you wanted to. I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
except for things he's saying nothing's been disproved. It's all coming true bit by bit, right? And he
And
says,
I'm pretty sure he was making good money at the time. He's probably made good money afterwards. He probably
no,
made
for
good money
some
if
reason,
everybody just threw him away because
for
he's
some
smart.
reason, yeah, he goes separate
He's
ways, right?
smart people.
He leaves this behind and he goes public, kind of as an insurance policy. Because once the information's already out there, the government can't kill you. Because what's the point, right? Like the information's already out, and if they kill you, it's just going to make it more obvious. Like they weren't really into Epsteining people back in the day. Um, um,
Yeah, well, you can. I mean, if well, hell, they've already done it now. What the fuck's the problem? What's the harm?
yeah, they apparently had some scruples at least back in the 80s. Um, so he basically, and what happens is the government erases all his records of ever going to college. Um, they erase his high school transcripts. They erase like the records of him working there, except if you are able to. There's like a laboratory phone directory for that for the lab where he worked, and they did all this shit. And if you get your hands on one of the copies from the time that he worked there, his office is listed. Like he's listed in their old phone books. But as far as like any records like on site, there's no record of him working there except for there are like hard evidence that he did that they weren't able to get rid of. Um, so yeah, to me, pretty much as soon as I found out that the phone book thing exists, I'm like, okay, he definitely worked there. They definitely erased it. There's people who like there's all kinds of witnesses like, yeah, I used to drop Caltech. He's like, I used to drop him off at fucking Caltech every day. you know, like and they Either he
And so
spent
he's been playing a long con, or he went.
for no profit. He's made no money off this. He hasn't written any books. He might have made like a little bit for the interview or something like that, but it wasn't money he needed. You know, he's not hurting. He didn't do it for fame or money. He did it. I think he released the information initially to stay alive, and afterwards, he didn't want to talk about it for a long time. He wouldn't, and eventually he did that other interview where he basically just kind of went over some of the same things. He's like, look, I've said it before, but and he's had years to reflect on some things. And in his initial interview in the '80s, he described what he's like. I saw this thing in a window for like a brief second, and he basically described a gray alien, you know, or a Jagophosaur. Um, and in his older years, as he's aged and he's thought back on it, he's like, look, it was more than likely a doll that scientists were sitting there like discussing with each other about the placement of it. He's like, it was more likely probably wasn't a live alien. It was probably a doll of a passenger. And they referred to the people who were piloting the creatures or whatever that were piloting the craft they were studying. They referred to them as the kids. So he said it kind of fit. He's like, it makes more sense that it was a doll, and it was a millisecond. He was like, I never really said it was an alien, but after thinking about it more and more, he's like, I think it was just like a doll, like a crash test dummy. And they were
Yeah, I've
like,
seen that part. No, that's an honest reflection on the time too. So I mean,
yeah, I mean, to me, the dude is as credible as it's going to get. Like, um, I don't believe he's lying. I can't find a motive. His story hasn't really changed. He's reflected and changed some of his opinion, but his story hasn't changed. So Area 51's a thing, and in my opinion, I kind of wish that the whole Storm Area 51 thing would have gone down. I think it would have resulted in a lot of deaths, but I think in the outcome of it, we would have learned the truth in the subsequent trials. um, Instead, they just stormed the Capitol building. Like I don't know where. I don't know where it got changed along the way.
I don't know if you'd ever be able to get the truth out of it anyway. 'Cause
Well,
you know, if anything like that, it's going to be protected.
and like even he said, it's not exactly at Area 51. It's near Area 51. And I've been saying for years, it doesn't make any sense to keep it there if it is.
Well,
If
it's probably not at Green Lake, but it's in Area 51. We got to establish, in case anybody doesn't know, that Area 51 is not just a little building or an airfield or an address. Area 51 is a big, giant parcel of land on a government map
oh yeah,
that divides not just that particular area, but the entire country into grids of area, and that just happens to be Area 51 of that particular state.
yeah, it's a large area. And like I said, it contains this S4 complex. It also contains the infamous Hangar 18, which, like I said, if they got a goddamn spaceship in Hangar 15, still to this, I mean Hangar 18, still to this day, then I mean I knew the government was stupid, but you know, come on.
Well, like I say, you got a perfectly defendable area that you've already invested all kind of surveillance technology in. You can see anybody coming and going, even if the technology fails. You've already got manpower there. You've already got all your defensive capabilities there. Can't nobody get to you, and the story's already out, and only some people actually believe it. Fuck yeah, I'd still operate there.
Hell yeah. I
If I
mean,
can keep you out, so you're still not going to get to see it. You know something's there, but you don't know what.
yeah, but I mean, if you're doing a cover up, you cover your tracks better than that. You keep this empty building guarded as fuck. Maybe the Ark of the Covenant's there, you know. But the one thing that is not going to be at this place in Area 51 is a goddamn alien spaceship.
The Ark and the Covenant would be our original escape pod that we came down that actually contains technology from our earlier times.
Oh Jesus, Mike. Now, I would say that you'd have a good argument. There could be a discussion about Noah's Ark being.
and and there was only one copy made, and it was hidden in the Library of Alexandria.
Oh man. Or somewhere out there, Superman's ship still is. It's like Superman's ship. The what is it? Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had his crystal on board too, man. Yeah.
I mean, I've been on board a few things with some crystals. That's kind of why we didn't record yesterday. Oh man.
My goodness, man. Yeah, I can actually see where they can get some, really religious tales, bro. I can make up some stories myself.
For real. You know, like I've often thought, I keep thinking, talking myself out of starting my own religion because I'm like, people will never fall for it. But then it's like, yeah, they would. It doesn't even have to make sense. And that's always
Uh,
been my fallback. Is like, well, I mean, people don't fall for anything, just anything. But then you could just point to Heaven's Gate, or you know, uh,
I've always thought about how it would be to have a cult, but I'm like, man, that's too much fucking work in building a story.
right.
I gotta
There's
actually
there's
play the
stuff
part.
involved.
I
There's
gotta play the fucking part though, man. I gotta be on stage all the time. Nah.
Yeah, you'd never really be able to be you.
Yeah, because nobody likes me.
I mean,
I can't have a cult. I can create somebody that can create a cult, but I can't create a cult.
yeah, me and Jessica and Storm are going to be starting a probably three-part series on for Charlie Manson's Fanny Pack about Charles Manson, and like we're going to be doing like one on him, one on the family, and then we're going to talk about the murders and the trials and the rest of the shit that happened afterwards. Um, so yeah, and people believe anything. You know, they in sometime in Charles Manson, he didn't have to play a part though. He was just who he was. He was just naturally
and
this guy.
and there are some people that can spin a line of bullshit to the point where you will believe them.
Yeah, man.
So,
Especially if everything else they say makes sense, right?
yep. So this
It,
Babazar can be speaking right straight out of his bunghole.
he can. I don't think so, but
I
then
can't see
again,
why, but
yeah.
I've met crazy people, and I've met crazy people that seem pretty fucking intelligent.
Like this story changed. Like it ruined his life, really. But he had a life, you
Nah.
know. Like as far as like yeah, it ruined a lot of his credibility with a lot of shit. Now, granted, he's a genius and he makes rocket bicycles, so he's fine. But far as like it made him a public figure. It made him, you have all the crazy people in the world, all the coast to coast call-ins.
Man, it didn't even knock his ass down to my level. Fuck that ruining his life shit.
I'm not talking about financially, you know. I mean, my life was ruined financially. I took some bad advice.
No, that did not ruin your life financially. That just stopped you from gaining financially.
Sure did. Oh man, that's all right, Mike. I still love you, bro.
Hey, I lost out on that too.
Yeah, you did.
Big time. God
And
knows.
we'd probably still be doing a podcast, but we'd have an employee. Oh man, and that seems to be our biggest drawback at this point. We need an employee.
Yeah, it means I got to make enough money in my job to be able to pay one. Cause or we gotta. I don't know how do you do that intern shit?
Ah man. And who's going to intern for a fucking couple of dudes in a dimly, well, sometime excessively brightly lit, but mostly dimly lit room? with a mattress on the wall. Who's going to come be our sound person? You know, like Crayon could have done it, but then he moved away, and Gunner maybe, but I might. Gunner might actually be a thing, man. He
I don't
might.
know. It might actually make it sound a little bit better if we install some leather straps and a wooden beam.
All right, so I hope you're not. See, I went with a crossbeam set up like an X and with arm and leg straps. Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
what we just
Fur-lined leather straps.
we just get some geisha girl to tie up onto a cross member and listen to our podcast. I mean,
Oh, sound
Howard
engineer.
Howard Stern's done worse, but
It's just an interesting desk chair combination so that she can reach the controls.
huh?
Or he. I mean,
They.
well,
hmm. I am in a PC pretzel here, Mike. Oh man. Well, do you have anything else to say about Roswell or Area 51? I'm sure we'll do more episodes on aliens as time goes by. There's other cool events like the Rendlesham Forest or whatever in Britain, Rendlesham Fordson Finland. Um,
okay. Um,
some British forest. There was a like the British Air Force has official reports from high-ranking members of UFOs landing like in the woods around the base, and like
yeah,
official reports.
there's a lot of reports all around the world from military folks, but crazy people are everywhere.
Yeah, but you don't become like some of these people. You don't get to this rank. Well, unless you're a Nazi and you're like Himmler or Goebbels. You don't get to this rank being absolute fucking nutso, right? And it's
Um,
there's so
um, I'd like to interject. How many are Christians?
all right. So fair enough,
How many are
but
Mormons?
well, in England, I don't think any.
Well, in military, I'm talking in high-ranking military or high-ranking official positions.
Probably quite a few,
Um,
I would actually imagine.
yeah, I so
I,
put
I I
that in
knew of more.
perspective of believing in
I
these
was in boot
religions
camp with a
into
Mormon.
believing a UFO as the same fever as a religion, and there
Yeah,
you
but
go. You can.
the whole base
It's the
saw
same
it.
fucking thing.
The whole base saw it. The whole base reported that
Yeah.
there was physical evidence left behind, like burns and fucking marks and shit that they were able to take photographs of. Like either the whole base hoaxed it, I mean, it'll be a cool episode. We'll put it on the voter list. Rendell, Schecker, Finsenden, Forest. I don't.
Or it was a way of hiding their own secret technology from their military neighbors, and we're just like, yeah, it was a UFO.
Oh, then there's the Nazi UFO connection. We could talk about Die Glocke, the
Yeah, we're
bell.
not working on super fast, supersonic, unmanned nuclear bombers. Yeah, no, that was a UFO, bro. So
And
yeah, I
then
can cover that up too.
yeah, everybody will believe that.
So yeah, it could still be done. The whole base can lie about particular thing. Yes, that was where they were testing their super secret military shit, and they don't want nobody to know they were doing it.
Hell yeah, I buy it.
Might might be why we started putting UFOs in Area 51.
Yeah, maybe.
Might be why we're trying to build UFOs. We come in peace while we're getting ready to drop a bomb.
What if all these UFOs are things that have gone back through the rip in space time that we made with the Hadron Collider. Uh, you know, see our
There you go.
episode on reality before the Mandela Effect episode for more information on that. Um,
Hell yeah, that's a good connection. I like that.
yeah, yeah. See that? Nice callback there. They're gonna
Hell
go
yeah.
looking for that episode now. If you like what you hear, punch some subscribes and likes. Follow us, email us. You can join our Patreon and get some bonus contents. Um, we also have we're a member of the Nifty Rocks Media Production, a place where you can find other such shows as Charlie Manson's Fanny Pack and Skeeter's Bar Talk if you're a patron. Soon there will also be Unevangelist. That'll be my little show about. I'm just basically going to rip into evangelicals. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's gonna be good.
check it out. It's coming soon. And yeah, unless you have anything else, Mike.
Now we're gonna let them go, folks. You know, have a great one, man.
Yep. Fuck around and find out and all that happy shit. This has been Stoner's Point.